All right, there's the news we were all kind of waiting for, frankly. Source confirms to me that Dan Quinn met with Kliff Kingsbury this morning to discuss changes to the offense, and both parties decided to mutually agree to part ways. Again, not necessarily a surprise, but this is a big deal. Kind of what happens next? What do they do? Your level of just kind of your reaction to this now becoming official.
You hear one thing about it. We hear a lot of rumors, and we always dismiss. So we say what makes us feel good. This is something that kind of seemed like what the rumors were, and what you were hearing. That was kind of leading to this direction. So now you have to make sure you get somebody. Hell, they may have somebody in the building, or you may bring somebody else in. Brian Johnson was a former offensive coordinator. He did a lot of great stuff with Jalen Hurts up there in Philadelphia. We talk about the other young man that's a possibility of becoming an offensive coordinator in this league on the
Blau,
team. Blau. So you got different people out there. But as I stated earlier, if every year Kliff is going to be the hot topic of going somewhere else, doing this, doing that, and then your quarterback gets hurt, and people didn't really see a change in the offense when he got back, you make a move, and this is something where they made a move to mutually agree to part ways. But they did make a move. And it has to tell you, maybe somebody would say, we need you to adjust, and there were no adjustments.
I tell you, the one thing I would have said is if Kliff was there and then Joe Witt was still around, that wouldn't have made sense, even if it was a formality. I'm glad they made this. I'm glad the news got out.
I think one has nothing to do with the other one.
Sure, but I think if you're taking this seriously and you're redoing everything, then you got to redo both of these. What does it say, Brian, to you? After 2 years now, they've gotten rid of both coordinators.
Kliff is a guy who's going to be always a guy talking about getting another job. Joe, he had dressed up his first time becoming a coordinator. They gave him a chance. He had 2 years. Okay, and the NFL don't wait that long for you. And the thing about Kliff has been around here long enough now to where people are going to. He's a person, either a person you like or you don't. That's how it's become. And the whole thing is not about appeasing people's systems and their feelings. It's about winning on this football team. And you just got to move forward from that.
I think a lot of this is the style of offense, going no huddle, putting more reps on Jaden, more situations on Jaden. The biggest thing is, who are you going to get, right? We can argue if Dan Quinn should call the plays defensively. Dan Quinn ain't going to call the plays offensively, period.
Mm-hmm. True about that.
The biggest question becomes, who's next? Who's going to be calling the plays? And because of Dan Quinn went to a Super Bowl with Kyle Shanahan. They lost. But the amount of success Quinn saw, and then Kyle left and Mike McDaniel worked for him. Like, it's hard for me to think somebody from the Shanahan, whether you want to call it coaching tree or not, somebody that runs that Shanahan offense won't be coming to town, which means more under center. It means more play action. Typically means running the ball a bit more. I don't know that answer. And I think there's going to be significant competition for the best candidates, right?
Mm-hmm.
Part of me does agree that this could be a mutual parting of ways here. You also got to wonder who the hell the next defensive coordinator is going to be. But that is a little bit different because of DQ's still here. So you'd think it is still kind of Dan's defense, or at least perception. Mike McDaniel looks like he's sticking around.
Yep.
In Miami. You go back. I mean, there's a lot of people that can make sense. Darrell Bevel, somebody that was the offensive coordinator when Dan Quinn was with Seattle. He's been on Mike McDaniel's staff in Miami. Honestly, I've said this about the defensive side of the ball, and I think for me, you look at the offensive side of the ball. Mm-hmm. This does not have to be somebody you're overly familiar with. This has to be the best coach you think there is for the job.
Yeah.
And if you look around the league, who are some of the OCs with really high aptitude that don't get to call plays? Like, Liam Cohen is calling the plays in Jacksonville. Who's his number 2? Is that a mind you think could be pretty interesting? Mm-hmm. If you look at Denver, Sean Payton's calling the plays. Who's the number 2 there? Or perhaps it's even Carolina. Or, you know what I mean? Like, where are there offensive coaches that are calling their own plays? This has happened to the Rams time and time again, where Sean McVay is the play caller, but that OC keeps getting jobs. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I mean, you got to cast a wide net on this. You also, Jaden should have input. You got to make sure Jaden continues to get input. So how does that shake out? I think there's a lot of factors at play, but familiarity should not be the guidepost here. It should be best guy for the job. And I think maybe you consider your own options. You consider Brian Johnson in-house. Maybe Anthony Lynn you consider in-house. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Those are guys that already know everything going on. And with the decision, when they hired Kliff, that was stepping outside of their comfort zone, right? Like, AP and Kliff have a relationship going back probably close to 30 years when they were both in New England. But at the same time, it's not like Quinn had coached with Kliff before.
Yeah.
I got a name I don't hate. I don't think he's equipped to be a head coach, but I think Brian Daboll can run some good offense. That'd be an interesting one. Like, there's going to be a lot of names out there. Mm-hmm. I don't know what folks are going to do. A lot of moving parts. Finally got the news. I want to let the Aquarium boys react. Jeff, Kliff's out, Witt's out. The Witt thing, you already demoted the guy. That was a matter of time. Kliff's the news here. What's your reaction?
I thought he was going to get one more year because of the fact that he did have a good season with Jaden the year before that. I'm ready. Of course, I'm ready to see what new defensive coordinator, what new offensive coordinator we get. The thing I'm most excited to see about this offseason is what is AP going to do? I'm fine with the coordinators. What is AP going to do to make up for the draft picks we lost? What is he going to do in the draft? Is he doing anything in free agency? Like you said, with Witt, we knew it was coming after the demotion. Like I said, I thought they would try to give Kliff another chance because Jaden was hurt this year. But, hey, that's the game. We just got to see what our next coordinators do when they come in.
I don't think Kliff getting another chance because Jaden was hurt this year is the correct way to look at it. I think they are looking at it as Jaden got hurt this year.
Because of.
Maybe not because, but how do we make sure there's less of that, and we think this offense might be a factor. I think if you have to dial this down to one thing, I think they have questions about Kliff's ability to protect Jaden. Because Jaden's got to be Jaden on the field, but
another thing that stuck out this year, too, remember last year everyone was like, oh, yeah, Kliff, he started out strong, but it's going to start to fade. That stuck out a lot this season.
Yeah, I mean, there are things that really stand out. Professor Landini, your reaction, sir. Kliff's out.
I'm not all that upset by it. I wasn't particularly excited when they hired him a couple of years ago. Last year, obviously, the offense did well, but, I kind of feel like a lot of that was Jaden pulling a rabbit out of his hat a lot of times. And the offense just, frankly, it didn't look good this year when Jaden was playing. And I think you got to put a lot of that on Kliff Kingsbury. And it's the job of whoever's going to be the offensive coordinator here to, work with Jaden and put up a good offensive numbers. So I'm excited for whoever they're going to bring in.
Yeah, I like David Blau a lot. I don't know that they would that'd be a pretty aggressive move. I kind of was charting this out early. Some interesting moments this year with Kliff Kingsbury. B, you go all the way back to August.
Mm-hmm.
Dan was consistently saying pretty much nothing about Terry.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was like, yeah, it'll get worked out. It'll get worked out. We're not worried. Kliff was the one that came out and said, yeah, we need him on the grass. There's a reason our offense doesn't look as good.
Yeah. But look, as much as that he gets praised for that, for speaking up for what he needs, a lot of people see that as going away from what the company mindset is.
Fans may have appreciated that.
That's what I'm saying. No, that's
but
what I'm
people
saying.
in the building
Fans agree, and a lot of people go, "Oh man, he spoke up." But the whole thing about it is, that's kind of showing a crack. You know what I'm saying? And you don't want that.
I charted these out just over the last couple days, thinking about stuff. August 15th, Kliff says the needs to be on the grass line about Terry McLaurin.
Mm-hmm.
November 2nd, and I think if you had to really pinpoint one thing, Dan Quinn took all the heat for Jaden still being in that game. I think most of that is deserved. But you can also control what gets called, and there was an RPO call down 30 against Seattle. Jaden ends up hurting his elbow on that. I was told in no uncertain terms, and I'll give myself a little room, in some uncertain terms, that once Jaden came back against the Vikings after the bye, that the designed quarterback runs were out of the system. Think back to 2nd and goal from the 2 when they run 3 straight pass plays. Think back to the success they've had on that little QB draw to the right-hand side. Mm-hmm. That was their cheat code in 24.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't see it. Jaden still ends up getting hurt in the second half of that game. Then late in the year, Josh Johnson at quarterback, they're under center way more. And it was, we were told it's because Josh is more comfortable that way.
Mm-hmm.
And what Marcus and Jaden said a lot of is we love the system. Kliff's, we get a ton of information. We get a ton of input. How do you think Jaden's feeling this morning or with this news?
Listen, man, one thing about football, if you play football long enough, people are there one day, they're gone the next. You get used to it. You get used to change. I don't think he's thrilled. I don't think he's disappointed. I think it's just you go through it and you're like, okay, what's next? And you start figuring out what you got to do. I don't think players get to the point, and let's just be real. You think Jaden and those players hadn't been hearing the stuff around too? They sense things.
Sure.
You know, I always say, my little comment, don't just read the writing on the wall, understand it. They have probably heard more stuff than we've heard. They've seen differences and changes and things like that. If you're with some people every day, you notice a change.
Yeah, I think Jaden's mom, Regina, did tweet out 2 days ago. Really excited for 2026, another year for Jaden and Kliff. I thought that was kind of interesting. Jaden yesterday said how much he loves playing for Kliff. Wish he had a chance to play more for him. But this is also the big city, right? It's pro sports. Like, you don't get to call everything. If there was one thing we slammed the organization during the Robert days was how much control he had. Clearly, this isn't Jaden's decision to make.
And like they said, he'll have input in stuff. Input to a degree.
Input doesn't mean final decision making.
Bam.
I want to open these phone lines up. 800-636-1067. 800-636-1067. Kliff Kingsbury is out as offensive coordinator. What is your reaction? Let's go to Elijah in D.C. What's up, Eli?
What's going on, fellas? Thanks for taking my call. I feel like the writing was kind of on the wall. This game is adjust or be eaten or evolve or be eaten. And I didn't see the evolution in season based off all of the analytics that we have for now. even me, I couldn't go out there and call plays, but based off what I'm seeing around the league, I knew I would be able to know enough to put Jaden under center, and just with the eye test. And I just don't think Kliff was willing to adjust based off of the eye test. And this stuff was going on in meetings. If we were having these conversations, they were looking at these plays and breaking them down and having those conversations about adjusting. These are the things that we need to do. So I do think the team is built for more under center. I think your offensive line, those big guys could be more aggressive. So, I think this is the right time because my fear was if he was to stay and then we have another draft and then he goes, you got new rookies who now have to learn 2 new playbooks. And I just wasn't certain how that would look. So you get it out the way now and then you restart and then you see what you get. So I'm cool with it. I think the run game and certain elements are there that are attractive for an OC. If he come in, he say, well, they got Tunsil over there. They got some development at the right side of the tackle. Obviously, they got 5. Bill, he's a guy that's coming along. So I think the ingredients are there for a guy to say, man, let me just get them a tight end. Let me get them a number 2. And let me get some action going. Debo, because he's a safety net during this time. So this is going to be an interesting time. And I'm kind of glad this happened now before we kind of behind the 8 ball and other situations. If we're going to take advantage of Jaden's time and this rookie contract, you better really get what you think you better have because this time is definitely slipping away in that regard. So we got to get cooking on whatever we think we're going to go. So appreciate y'all, man.
All
All right. Appreciate you, dude. Thanks for the call.
Yeah.
Phone lines are going to be lit up. 800-636-1067. 800-636-1067. Breaking news today, somewhat expected. Certainly, Joe Witt is out as defensive coordinator for the Commanders. That's not a surprise. Kliff Kingsbury is out as offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders. One real question, B, how desirable is that OC job? How desirable is it to come here, be the play caller for Jaden Daniels? We explore that next. You're listening to 106.7 The